Okay, I better be recording this time. All right, had some issues here. Yes, we're recording. We have 87%. All right, so let's do something here. I don't know what all you saw because the camera cut off on me, but I showed taking it all down, and now I'm about to put it all back together because I don't know what all you saw. So let me put it back together. All right, we're gonna try this again. Okay, now we've gotten him taken out. He's taken out of his all right, he's taken out of the pistol. I showed you this pin. When you put your takedown pin, it snaps through and a little silver clip holds it. I think I've shown y'all that already. Right here, a little silver clip holds this pin going through this hole. And you'll notice it wiggles, okay? Because it's an elongated hole. It's not perfectly circled, round. So when it goes through here, sometimes this will slide back and forth in your frame. Be aware of that. There's nothing wrong with it. This is the way it's made. Okay, now to get this pistol trigger and everything out, I am going to, first thing first, we have got to, now you know, your takedown lever won't come down until this pushes up, okay? You pull it back up, it locks. Now this takedown bar right here, see it move? You see? Way back in here, there's a little pin that protrudes this way, and this little hook has to be behind that pin so it pulls it forward, okay? And this bar comes up, and if you can see in here, there is a little tiny recess. I'll try and point it out. There's a tiny recess right here that this bar has a little ball on it that goes in here, okay? Now I hope you can see that. So, first thing we're going to do is take our trigger return spring off, and that's this thing right here. It's a little round V-spring. You get your fingernail or a screwdriver with a divot in it and pop it off. It goes in either way, doesn't matter. It hooks, it goes through this hole and hooks right up there. So we'll take him out. Okay, now we need to get our trigger pin out, and the only way to get that out, there's a couple things. Let's get this takedown lever bar out, but this pin right here is holding it in, this pin right here. So we have to pull up on this pin now. You can push it through from the back side by taking the slider out and the trigger bar off, but let's go ahead and start this. Let's just grab it right here with a pair of little pliers, and we're going to pull up on it, twist it a little bit, and pull up. And it has to go in this way. All right, it has to be just like that when it goes back in. Now this will pop out and come out. And you can probably see that teeny tiny little bar I'm talking about right here, catching it with this pin. It's got to catch behind that. That's your part of your sear. Now when you pull this thing out, you can pretty much expect your lock right here to fall out. There it is. We'll put that back in later. Okay, and he's going to go in just like that. All right, so we got that out of the way. Now you can see that little divot, excuse me, that little divot right here that pin goes in. All right. This little ball right here goes into that little divot in there, like that, so it turns it, all right? And I'm having to look all around to make sure y'all can see this. So we have that dropped out. We got our pin pulled up. We got this bar out. Okay, this is loose. Now we got to get our trigger bar, our trigger hinge pin out, and it's right here. You flip it over, pull this out of the way because it spins freely now, and it's a little hole of the trigger right here. Push that in there. This Allen key comes with a kit. All right, so that frees up some room for this thing to wiggle. Okay. Now this takedown pin is probably going to come out. So I want to show you about it. If you look on this side, you see right here, this moving part right here, all right? Do you see this little bar right here that moves when you turn it and spin it? Okay. That has to come all the way around far enough to get off of this ledge. All right, there, now it'll pop out. There's a ledge that it rides on right here, all right? And there's the little hook right here. I'll lay that back down, that's my marker. There's a little bitty hook in this piece right here that catches it. All right, so this is the takedown pin. Now we have some wiggle room. All right, take our return bar, trigger return bar, all right, pull it back and up and out. Now we have to pull this forward so that we can take this and wiggle it around and get it off the pin. Now our trigger will come out if you turn it backwards where it goes in like that, because this bar right here has to go in right here, all right? On the back of it is a little divot that catches in this and pushes that bar. So that's why we had to get wiggle room to get this out. Now your original trigger will come out pretty easily. This is the original trigger. I've already had this one installed. It'll come out pretty easy. Okay, so we got him out. All right, here's this little slider. I forget the name of it. It comes down and you will have to take this off. So let's go ahead and pull him out. Now we'll set him down over here where you can, to be able to get that pin pushed back through far enough to catch on your hook. All right, that'll go down there like that, and this hinge pin will push through, and it's the bottom hole that has to be lined up. We'll line that up in a little bit. I just want to get you a heads up, but that's got to happen. All right, so now we have everything out. Your new trigger comes like this, and in the bottom down here you can see right here a little hole that has a little Allen key screw, an Allen set screw that screws in from the bottom of the trigger up in there with this teeny tiny little bitty Allen wrench that they give you, okay? Let me pull back, yep. Your little Allen wrench. You'll take it, clean it off with some cleaner, take the little pin, which I've already got mine installed, clean it all out, spray it with a little brake for your whatever chemical cleaner you got to get the oil out of it. Take a dab of blue Loctite, put it on that little Allen pin, and you will screw them in to the bottom like that until you get 2 threads showing on the top side. All right, the 2 threads have to be showing right here on that. All right, I usually push and make sure I got a good 2 threads, because you're gonna have to back it out to set your trigger after we get it installed. All right, so mine's already been done. So, all right, so now we have our new trigger. All right, we've got the little screw screwed in with 2 threads showing on this side. Put your little grease and lube all in there. Come back up to your gun, all right? And we're gonna put the trigger up. Like I said, you gotta have it angled this way, all right? So that you can angle this bar right in here. It won't go in that way or anywhere else. You gotta angle it back and get him up in there and just turn him, okay? Now we're not going to put the trigger hinge pin back in yet. What we're gonna do first is we're gonna take our trigger bar, and it only goes one way. Right, the little hook side right here, this little hook side that you see, that hook right here has to go down like this into this recess back here. All right, it goes in right in here once we get it all installed. All right, but I'm just getting you orientation for this, so that we can have, like this. It goes in like this. So this flat side, we need the little hole to be under here into that trigger. And we have to have wiggle room to get him under there, because it's really tight with the new one. So we're going to wiggle him in underwards and kind of turn him up, or just keep wiggling it until you feel it catch on the trigger on this side. I got him in too far. Let's pull back out a little bit. Okay, I'm on it. All right. So now when I move the trigger, the bar moves. All right. Now we're going to just set this over and just lay it down out of the way. He's in there. Let's go ahead and flip him over. And we're going to put, before we put the trigger hinge pin in there, we're going to put our takedown lever back in there so we got room to get it, pick up, pull back, to get it into that notch, okay? So our hinge pin, our takedown pin goes in from this side. We're going to wiggle him in there, and we're going to wiggle it. There we go. Now see, it'll turn, but it's not captured yet. All right, the little hook right here is underneath, and it'll fall out. So you want to turn it until that comes up. Now it went up a little bit, now we turn it down and we're captured, okay? All right, so we got that all in. Now then, once we've got this bar connected, we've got our takedown lever back in there. We're gonna turn him over and we're gonna take our trigger hinge pin, the little short trigger hinge pin, and put him back in his place right here. And wiggle him in the trigger until he goes in, all right? And you just push him down in there with your finger, or I'll take a little, push him, and he just goes in there and sits flush right there, okay? So now our trigger hinge pin right here is put back in. All right, so now we need to get our takedown lever hook bar back in there. Like I showed you, there is a little recess spot right in here that this bar, this little ball right here on the end of this has to catch into it. All right, so we're going to turn him like this, drop him down in there. He's caught in there. See, if I move that, it wiggles. All right, now we come back here and we're going to take this and set it down in here far enough back. Oh, I got to turn this. I got to turn this hinge pin out and out of the way. All right. So now we got to pick him up and push him all the way back and set him down in there so that he catches behind that hook I was telling you about. There's a little hook down in there, and this end piece has to be behind the hook, so that when you pull the trigger, it'll step like that. You'll see what I mean. This comes down. See it springy now? He's kind of springy and he caught. Flip that back up and he'll come back. We want to make sure he's springy like that. All right, so he's in there. We'll leave him right there, okay? Now we've got to get this pin pushed back in. So I'm going to turn it and position it back like it's supposed to be, like this, and we'll start pushing them in just a little bit. This holds this into place. This also up here holds this hinge pin in place. So this thing kind of does 3 different jobs, all right? But we've got to line up, and you need to keep all these things held together with your hands like this or they'll fall out. So we're going to slowly turn him over to this side, and right down in here is where we're going to drop this little safety catch. It drops right down in here, positioned like this, with this loop forward on the top and the hook pointing straight down, and the little ball and nook in the back. Pick him up, drop him down in here, just lay him down in there. He goes down in about that far. We're going to flip him over. We've already got this slide out of the way so we can see our holes down here, but I got the trigger bars in the way. Okay, so somehow I've got to maneuver that little bar around until I can see the hole. That went too far. He's not far enough now. Let's push it down a little farther in there. until I can, there it is. There's my hole right there that goes through. So I just take a scribe or anything I got and wiggle it around until that hole and pin are lined up. And then from the back side, I push that pin. It didn't quite seat. You should wiggle up in there. And I got a hair down in there, dadgummit. Get back up, ease up a little bit, wiggle up. I think why won't you go in your hole? Nah, I got him off again, so now I gotta find my hole again. All right, I'll take that, gotta push him down. I got the hinge pin shoved up against it pretty hard. Let's pull my hinge pin back out the pin back out just a little bit. Give me some wiggle room. Well, he is in there. Not quite, not all the way. I don't have this pulled out far enough. Now then, he'll wiggle some more. Come up. Ooh, that's too much. Okay, let's get in there's my hole. Stick that down in there. And maneuver him to where he's dead center. And then push my pin up. It never has been this hard before. What's the matter with you? Why are you being this hard? That's still... Pull that out of the way. Pull my pin, lock that down out of the way. All right, now let's see if I can line him up again. It's never been this hard. There it went. Got him pushed up in there. He's all the way in. Now we can see that the pin is all the way in, and the bottom right here is flush. And we have captured our lock. And you see the little lock just flops freely. All right. He flops freely. So that's in. This is in. Let's pop that back up. He's still behind that bar. He's still springy. All right, now then, we have to put this little slide thing back in here. So I'm gonna take my trigger bar, kind of pull him up, and he's a pain in the butt. Now that everything's back together, just kind of got to pull it backwards, a little toughy, pull that out of the way. Are you seeing that? Yeah. And we'll take our little slide. The flat slide on the bottom goes up against that. See the difference of it? It's got on this side, it's got the big piece. He slides up in just like that. Now we take our trigger bar, pull it back over. We're going to pull it back a little bit. Got to get him in his hole. He's got to come up and over where that all sits flush. So you got to pick up on it, push it over, and drop him into place. Okay, he's all back together now. Keep everything held tight, okay? Now we're going to put our trigger return bar spring. So you've got it like this, upside down, trigger up here, all right, and back here. Take your trigger return spring, like this, yeah, and it's gonna drop down in this hole right in here first. See right here? There's a hole right there on this big hump. The hole, all right, drop, and it goes in like this. Drop that, got hair on the thing from this freaking towel. Drop that in like that with that laying flat and just let it fall in there, okay? Now, this piece on this side hooks right here on the front. Remember, the earlier ones were scratching the magazines. They got them cut right now, okay? So, and then take my thumb nail or a screwdriver with a hook on it and hook it back onto the trigger bar. Now you notice he's not in the hole yet, okay? Get that to freaking turn over, get my finger out there. All right, he is not in the hole yet. I'm gonna light right on it where you can see. All right, here's the hole. He's right there. So what you have to do, and this is what happened to my gun the first time I shot it. You got to get some pliers or something, just kind of push that back around. There it goes, he snapped into that hole. So the trigger bar goes in this, the trigger spring goes in that hole right there. We are all back together. We have our new trigger installed. Everything's back together. That bar was put in its proper space, and you can always tell because the space between here and there and here and there are the same. All right, so if we push this up, we can turn that back and it locks our lock down here. That little ball is in the, yep, he's in his hole. See how that moves? That's all the way back here behind that bar. How many hairs am I going to find on this thing? When we push this up and drop our lever spring down, it's springy until it clicks into place. Our takedown, our slide stop is in place. It's caught behind a spring. You see a spring in there. It's caught behind that, or else it wouldn't go up and down. And we got that forward. So our trigger spring, return spring is working by doing its thing. Our hinge pin is in place and locked and holding the takedown bar in place. Everything is working as it should. Yep. And that's flush down in there. Captured the spring. Dude, we're ready to put them back together. Okay. Got your gun right here. Drop it trigger first down into the hole. Okay. This first little U is cut out is for this takedown pin. So just kind of push him down in there. Push him forward a little bit. And then drop this down just like that. We take our takedown pin and push him through. Some of them are harder than others. I've had mine apart a time or two. That went in. Let me hit that little click. Yep, he's in place. He's locked into place. We'll do when I pull it, the striker sear and it drops down. If I push this up, take my take the lever down. All right. Now you notice the little safety lock right here it free flops. You see, he just flops up and down with at least a little bit of movement. Okay, that means he's in there right. You have to make sure he's down. And take your slide, put him on. Make sure that trigger sets down. Pull it all the way back. Hit your lock, and it should pop into place. We're done. Test him. All right, mine fires. Now, when you do this and you put yours in here, that may not fire. It may not, because that little pin that we put up into the trigger right here may be screwed in too far. So you take this tiny little Allen wrench they supplied with you, and you're going to stick him up in here and hook him on that little Allen key pin and back him off a quarter turn at a time until your gun fires. Once it fires, back it off another complete, well, as far as you can turn it. It'd be like that's tight, and then you'd put them in here and back them off one more time, like that, quick as you can find it in its place. Go ahead and back them out one more turn till that hits the trigger, and that should be safe enough to know that this thing's going to fire every time you pull the trigger. If you're ever out on the range and you pull the trigger and it don't fire, and this one guy was shaking his and it fired, that means you've got that pin still screwed in there too far, but you got blue Loctite on it. So by that time that the blue Loctite is set, it may be hard to break it with this teeny tiny little Allen key. So you may have to take it all back apart and put some heat on it to get it, and just go ahead and turn it back another turn or another 2 turns. You know, not a complete revolution, but as far as you can turn it with this and that. But mine has worked perfectly. It fires, and the reset on it is right there. That's not much movement. Not much movement at all. This thing doesn't move far at all. All right, it's here to the wall. That's maybe a little over 1/4 of an inch travel to hit the wall, and then steady pressure back, and you go another about maybe 1/4 of an inch travel from here to there, and then for it to break, right back up. So you're about at 90-degree angle when you hit the wall, which is way less travel, you know, length from here to here than the original trigger. The original trigger is way up here, literally about to right there, and it takes a long trigger pull, a lot of travel, I should say, long pull, a lot of creep. There's no over travel the way I've got mine set. So when I fire it, bam, he can't come back no more. There's no over travel, not very much creep. And it's springy. You can feel it's pushing my finger. Oh, I didn't reset it. What am I doing? Now then, I think about what I'm doing. So it springs. You can hear it click, and it's pushing my finger forward, which is good. So this is what I like. Before, when I had this, and I've got it on other videos, I was shooting 50 yards, hitting 6 and 8 inch steel plates with a red dot and with iron sights, about 3 out of 10 shots. With this trigger in there, I'm actually hitting 6, 7, 8 out of 10 shots at 50 yards, because there's less movement, less pull, less chances for you to get off and pull the gun left or right when you're pulling the trigger. Right now, it ain't moving. I get my set. Barely see the gun moving at all, because it's less travel to fire it. Anyway, this is the 6-hour P365 short stroke flat trigger from CARBO. Military Carbine Brotherhood. I know during the holidays these things are running about $79. They're normally $99. They may still have a sale going on for them or not. Well worth it. Well worth it. I've got them in all of my 365s. I love it. It's a fantastic trigger. This is the X Macro Comp. I have one in it. Same thing, about 90 degrees. No over travel. Reset. Click, right back at 90 degrees. And this was an XL that I bought an X Macro frame and put on it because I absolutely love the X Macro frame and the 17 rounds. Anyway, folks, this Cornholio. I hope this is better. I'll check it before. If I can't get it put up, I'll find some other way to get the sliding better. If I need to put this on a white table, I don't know. But my overhead boom that I put my cameras on, I didn't bring it with me up here. It's still back in Alabama, so I'll need to go back home and get that if I make any more videos on tabletop. But thank you so much for watching. God bless America. God bless you. And Cornholio out.